Hi, everybody. Today we've got a hypothetical matchup between Dean Phillips for the Democrats and Donald Trump for the Republicans. This matchup theoretically could even happen, and it was suggested to me in the comments, and I already did the dice battle between these two. Let's see what would happen for real. So a little bit of background about how I do this. I'm trying to project the result for next election day. So right now, people don't know who Dean Phillips is. He's a congressman from Minnesota, but to be fair, I'm going to assume there's no Joe Biden, there's no bitter infighting. Dean Phillips is the nominee, his name recognition gets all the way up, and he runs a serious national campaign. As far as his policy positions, I'm going to mostly assume he's a younger version of Joe Biden. And as far as personality goes, I do think he is on the bland side. And we already know about Trump's backstory. He ignites a lot of voters to come out for him and against him. He's stronger in the Rust Belt. He's not as strong in the suburbs. And we also don't know what's going to happen with his trials. If he gets convicted, they could easily change the result. But one significant thing to factor in is Joe Biden right now is unpopular. Even Democrats want someone else to be the nominee. So a generic Democrat pretty much beats Donald Trump. Just like a generic Republican would beat Biden, it doesn't mean Phillips automatically wins, but we're going to go through these states. I'm going to get all the safe states out of the way. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we go. So the Democrats have all the usual states, including Colorado. It's definitely possible that gets under 10 for Phillips, but with the trends, we're going to say that that's just about 10. I'm also going to give Phillips his home state of Minnesota by 10 points. I think it's hard to deny he would get a big bounce there. All the usual states on the East Coast are going to go safe. Now the Republican safe states, those are also pretty much the same, and I'm going to include Alaska in there. Maybe that's a little bit generous for Trump, especially with ranked choice voting, but like Colorado, we're going to say it's also right at about 10 points. Everything else is all pretty much the same, and if we go down to the likely states, there's not a lot, but the Democrats are going to have New Mexico. That's also borderline safe. All the way to the east, we've got Virginia. Northern Virginia would definitely come out hard for Phillips. Trump would not have a chance here, so it would be over 5 for Phillips. And all the way in the northeast, we've got New Hampshire. I don't think there's much debate about Phillips being able to carry the state, and I think it would be by at least 6 points. Now, the likely states for the Republicans. We've got Texas. I'm going to leave that at likely. Maybe you say with the trends and somebody more popular than Biden, it could get down to leans. It's a possibility. We're going to say it's about 5.5 points. We're also going to add Iowa and Ohio in there. Maybe Phillips is a more palatable pick and he gets those down to leans. But on the flip side, if it is a big red wave and a terrible economy, maybe Trump could get those up to around 10 points. The last likely state is going to be Florida. That's Trump's home state. I think he could get that by at least 5 points. And also Maine's 2nd congressional district, I think that's going to be over 5 for Trump. Now let's go west coast to east on the rest of these states. We'll start in Nevada. This is pretty much a purple state. Could Trump get over the hump here and flip the state this time? I'm going to say against Phillips, he's going to be a little bit more popular than Biden, and he's going to hold the state by a tilt margin. Arizona is next. We know this trended toward the Democrats and away from Trump-style Republicans, but it is a border state. I'm assuming that's still at least a moderate issue by election day, and it's going to be close, but I'm going to give that one to Trump by a tilt margin. Next, we've got Nebraska's 2nd. That's a district where Phillips is probably going to be a good fit. I know that it's after redistricting, but I am going to give it to Phillips by a lean margin. Next state, Wisconsin. This borders Minnesota. Maybe that helps Dean Phillips very slightly. There is room for Trump to expand in this state. At the time, we're assuming Biden would still be in office, and he's probably not going to be super popular. But Phillips is going to be a little bit more popular. He's at least going to get Democrats to turn out. It does depend what happens with Trump, but I'm going to give this to Phillips by a tilt margin. Next door to Michigan, Phillips is going to try to get that union support, and he's probably going to do a little bit better than Trump on some economic issues. And we're assuming this is just a head-to-head matchup, no third parties. I think that would be enough for Phillips to win it by at least 1 point. Maybe it's 2 or 3, so it's going to be leans for Phillips. Pennsylvania is going to be a similar story. Trump will do fine in the T. He's not going to do really well in the Philadelphia suburbs, and I'm going to have to assume Phillips is going to do well enough, and it's also going to go leans for Phillips. Next, we've got North Carolina. We know this was a narrow margin last time, and I think Trump is still capable of winning this state. I don't think Phillips is going to have a lot of appeal in the South and with black voters, so I do still have Trump holding the state by a tilt margin. Last state, Georgia. A lot of this comes down to the Atlanta suburbs. This would be 4 years after 2020 when Biden narrowly carried it. Again, Phillips' turnout with black voters might be in question, but I think the suburban trends would be enough for him to carry the state. There'd be a lot of red counties out there, and it would be extremely close, but I think Phillips would barely come out on top here by about a 0.5 point, so it is going to go tilt for Phillips. So the final total is 292 for Dean Phillips, 246 for Donald Trump. So Phillips does get the win here. And again, this is not going by the polls today, this is projecting things out on election day. It's also assuming Biden just does not run again and Phillips wins the nomination. And everything points to right now almost any Democrat being a little bit stronger than Joe Biden. So that's why Trump comes up just short here. But again, a lot of these margins are so narrow, I think Trump would actually still win if it is a red-leaning national environment. And as far as charisma goes, Trump does have it. Dean Phillips, I don't think really has it. I've said he's just kind of like a younger version of Biden. I don't know how much different he would be on policy. He's kind of just a run-of-the-mill Democrat that's not as old as Joe Biden, and theoretically that should be enough for him to win outside of a red wave. But again, the trials with Trump could change things, and Trump would get huge crowds at his rallies. Dean Phillips would be banking on the suburbs and independents. Who knows what would really happen, but you got to come up with something, and this is the map that I came up with. So let me know in the comments, do you agree with this result? Would Dean Phillips do better than Joe Biden and win the election? Or do you think Trump would just get out so much of his base that it doesn't matter who the Democrats nominate, he would get the win? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.